Vice President Shettima seeks global backing for Africa's food systems reform.
Agriculture should be market-driven, not about handouts.
Senate President Godswill Akpabio champions multilateralism at UNIPU conference.
Let us build and bind our futures, not only in treaties, but in tenacity, and remain paragons of purpose.
Federal government concludes engagement with Northerners, earns vote of confidence.
Governance flourishes when it is inclusive. No president, no governor, no minister thrives alone.
And good morning, Nigeria. Today we shall discuss issues in tertiary education.
Tertiary education in Nigeria. It's a story of potential held back by some pretty deep-seated challenges.
Indeed, and Victor, from funding gaps to overcrowded classrooms and from brain drain to graduates struggling to find jobs, these issues keep piling up.
But it's not all doom and gloom. Now, the government has made some attempts, new admission guidelines, accreditation reforms, and even efforts to boost research and innovation.
Right, but for any real change to happen, we'll need more than just policies on paper. It's going to take stronger funding, smarter regulations, and a bigger push for innovation and collaboration.
Well said, and if we do get it right, our tertiary institutions could become engines of national development, producing not just graduates, but problem solvers and game changers.
That's why today on Good Morning Nigeria, we're digging deep into these issues head on. And we'll look at our universities, polytechnics, and colleges of education, ask the big questions. What's wrong? What's working? And what needs to change?
We'll also be talking to people who know the system from inside out, educators, policy experts, and stakeholders. And most importantly, we will ask them how all this affects you, the Nigerian student, parents, and employers. And
I'm Juma Yusuf. Thank you so much for starting your day with us on Good Morning Nigeria.
I'm Victor Azo. This is Good Morning Nigeria. We're reaching you live on the network service of the NTA.
And still to come, the newspaper review with Chukudi Okolu-Gbaja.
But first, let's get you up to speed with today's headlines.
And Comfort Amadi is standing by with the morning top stories. Comfort, good morning.
Good morning, Jumai and Victor. Vice President Kashim Shettima has called on global stakeholders to deepen cooperation with Nigeria in rebuilding sustainable and inclusive food systems across Africa. He made the call during a panel on country perspectives, government-led strategies and regional frameworks during the UN Food Systems Summit in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
Our agriculture should be market-driven, not about handouts. And the whole mantra is on increase in yield, because entrepreneurial capitalism is embedded in the very psyche of the average Nigerian. But what they are lacking is the wherewithal to place them on Jeffrey Sachs' pace ladder of development. And the whole mantra is on increase in yield.
President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, has called on parliamentarians all over the world to stand in partnership and commit to peace, justice, and shared destiny. He stated these in his remarks at the ongoing 6th World Conference of Speakers of Parliaments hosted by the Interparliamentarian Union, IPU, in collaboration with the United Nations, Geneva, Switzerland, with the theme A World in Turmoil, Multilateralism for Peace, Justice, and Prosperity for All. Akpabio noted that the world now being a global village and nations face armed conflict, climate disruption, and youth disillusionment, Parliament should legislate to secure the future. He made the reference to the partnership in Nigeria between the executive and legislature, which facilitates passage of laws to confront insecurity and rebuild trust, citing the Control of Small Arms and Light Weapons Act, the Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act, and the House of School Children Education Act as some outcomes of the collaboration.
We must command. Let us build and bind our futures, not only in treaties, but in tenacity and remain paragons of purpose. As parliamentarians, let us commit to collaboration and the courageous pursuit of solutions that transcend borders and partisan divides.
And back in Nigeria, the Federal Ministry of Aviation and Aerospace Development has kicked against a bill seeking to relocate the Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau from the ministry to be domiciled under the presidency. The ministry's position was given at a public hearing by the Joint House Committees on Aviation and Special Duties on the bill to amend the NSIB Act.
It is situated within the executive arm of government. You cannot get the independence we're talking about. It is only the law that can make it really stand as an independent body.
And with momentum building towards the actualization of reserved seats for women through legislation, stakeholders are calling for concrete strategic, legislative and institutional measures to address the persistent gender imbalance in Nigeria's political system.
It is time to break the barriers that have hindered women's participation in politics and governance. When we break this barrier, we are breaking the barrier to poverty.
So I advocate and call on all the women of this country to please go out, speak to the men, speak to everybody you can speak to get their support for these 74 reserve seats.
And as part of Nigeria's diplomatic engagements, the federal government is committing to strengthening relations with Ghana, including at the citizen-to-citizen level. This is when Nigerian Minister of State for Foreign Affairs met with the Inspector General of Police Ghana, Christian Tete Yohuno, at Kotoka Accra International Airport. A statement by media aides to the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Magnus Eze, disclosed this after the minister concluded her two-day visit to Ghana. Magnus noted that the visit was aimed at addressing the welfare and security of Nigerian diaspora community residing in Ghana. Bianca Ojukwu had high-level meetings with presidents of Ghana, the foreign minister, including traditional rulers, as well as Nigerian community based in Ghana. A two-day interactive session held by Sir Ahmadu Bello Memorial Foundation in Arewa House, Kaduna, has passed a vote of confidence in the Tinubu administration. The communique equally called for an increase in economic and security reforms to sustain the gains recorded within 2 years.
Governance flourishes when it is inclusive. No president, no governor, no minister thrives alone.
That's the news. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Jumei and Victor after this time out.
Have you heard the news? The federal government of Nigeria, through its direct benefit transfer program, has started the disbursement of 75,000 naira per household in 3 installments of 25,000, 25,000, 25,000 naira. Each recipient must have a validated national identification number, NIN, to receive the payment on behalf of their household members. To benefit, your household must be in the National Social Register of Poor and Vulnerable Households in Nigeria. The federal government's direct benefit transfer program is helping to reduce the effect of suffering while promoting financial and economic inclusion for the poor and vulnerable population in Nigeria.
Afam Bogeneka, Ebim Nagara Dimawa Village, Abuja, Nazo Afeba. So Esom Nandi register na NSR government register with my NIN. So government we use ATM card. Nji we wete 25,000 naira 3 times. And ega haya mketa barumulu na dem. Eji megoro makamihe. Jikweru mehendozo. Thank you.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation, Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, in collaboration with the National Social Investment Programs Agency, National Social Safety Net's Coordinating Office, and the National Cash Transfer Office.
Nothing tell you any day that everything tastes better. It's Bama.
Maliciously good.
Nivea Black and White Deodorant, now with 72-hour protection. But what does that mean? 3 cities in 3 days and no fear of sweat and odor. 120 dances with skin as smooth as the moves. Sweat, stain and odor protection. Nivea Black and White Deodorant. Skin is for embracing life. Nivea is for skin.
Eligible candidates can turn their passion for broadcasting into profession by applying to NTA Television College, Rayfield, Jos, an affiliate of Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. Admission for 2025-2026 academic session for a BSc degree in Mass Communication and Diploma in Film and Television Production, Broadcast Journalism and Television Engineering. Entry, JAM admissible score not less than 180 and 100 respectively. NTA Television College as a training hub runs specialized courses in media-related area and other professional fields. For more information, log on to our website at www.ntatvc.edu.ng. Announcer Management.
Hey Nigeria, ready to breathe cleaner air and save money? Let's talk about gas. Drive with CNG, the smart, cost-effective choice. Fill up for less and travel further. Save money, save the planet. Switch to LPG for cooking. It's cleaner, healthier, and better for environment. Say goodbye to smoke and eye problems. Do you know Nigeria is a gas nation ranked 9th globally with over 209 trillion cubic feet of gas reserve? Gas isn't just for cooking and driving. It powers industries too. Cleaner, cheaper, and more efficient. And the best part, conversion centers are popping up everywhere. It's never been easier to switch to gas. Join the cleaner energy revolution. Choose LPG for cooking and CNG for your vehicles. Clean energy for brighter future. This message is brought to you by the Office of the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Gas, supported by the Nigeria Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, NMDPRA.
The Nigerian national flag represents our country's history, culture, and identity. It was designed in 1959. The colors are Emerald Green 2.0, which represents agriculture, and Immaculate White represents unity and peace. Know how to handle our flag. Illuminate the environment or don't fly the flag overnight. Do not fly a dirty or tattered flag. Take such flag to the nearest National Orientation Agency office for proper disposal and replacement. The national flag can only be flown at half-mast on the directive of the federal government. The national flag must be flown at the same or higher height when displayed alongside other flags. Don't burn or allow the national flag to fall on the ground. Do not print, decorate, modify, or insert the coat of arms on the flag. Our national heroes are not buried with the flag. They are honored by presenting it to their next of kin during interment. Respect our national flag. Be a real Nigerian.
This message was brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
Thank you for staying with us. Let's see what's buzzing on the front pages of the morning.
Our newspaper reviewer Chukudi Okolu Baja is in the studio. Chukudi, good
How are
morning.
you, my dear Jumai? Victor!
Good morning.
I hope we make you sufficiently jealous the way we greet each other.
Well, just do your 5 minutes and go.
Oh my God.
I'm the landlord. All right. I'll begin with the Vanguard. And the lead story here reads, operating PH refinery ahead of full turnaround, ill-informed. That's credited to the NNPCL. Rules out sale of refineries. $18 billion spent on 3 refineries, TAM, others so far. Okay? And there's a picture story of Vice President Kashim Shettima at the UN Foods Summit. Just above the nameplate, mixed reactions trail INEC's verdict on LG polls. That's on page 32. Hospital services disrupted as nurses strike enters day 3. Negotiations continue tomorrow. That's on page 8. And IDP's protests in Benue block Makurdi Lafia Road. That's on page 7. And just coming down to the bottom of the front page of the Vanguard, Presidency, ex-ADC chair Beaker over alleged ministerial bribe offer is on page 32. And just a tiny, looks like a tiny story. Sports, my generation was robbed. That's credited to Patience Havre. Then Nigeria was heading for 12 trillion naira subsidy debt. That's according to the PCNGI. It's on page 8. Phantom coup. Labour Party alleges harassment of leaders. That's on page 9. And that takes us to the blueprint. And there's still that story related to the Port Harcourt refinery. NNPCL rules out sale of Port Harcourt refinery, reaffirms commitment to full rehabilitation. Indeed, and above the nameplate, Anambra, pregnant nurse murdered, body parts sold to native doctors. It's on page 9. And below the nameplate, we are committed to protecting press freedom. That's according to Information Minister Idris, page 18. Keyamo hosts Morphe, Qatari investors, sector eyes investment boost on page 21. And in sports, Chan, home-based Super Eagles seek win against Zanzibar is on page 32. And just one more at the bottom, too many stories here. How North's fiscal position waxed stronger under Tinubu regime is credited to Bagudu. Cites huge critical infrastructure across states. Size allocations rose by over 340%. FG, states debt dropped by 33.4%. Jumai.
Yeah, okay, let's quickly go to the Leadership newspaper. And the Leadership newspaper above the masthead. Only Tinubu can end Zamfara insecurity, not Governor. Lawal, says Shekafi. Details on page 25. IBB demands laws to guarantee democratic dividends. Find the details on page 29. And below the masthead, we see trending. FG working to avert ASU strike. That's coming from the Minister of Education. And LCCI orders slam NNPCL's no-sale decision on Port Harcourt refinery. Find the details on page 8. Communal clash in Gwagwalada leaves 1 dead, 31 houses burnt. Details on page 8. And patients stranded as nurses, midwives strike hits hospitals nationwide. Find the details on page 4. And at the side piece of the picture story, North has no regret supporting Tinubu. That's coming from Bagudu. Traditional Council, no plans to make Sultan Oni permanent chairman, says Etsu Nupe. You find the details on page 8. Coalition is not about Atiku's 2027 ambition. That's coming from the ADC. Details also on page 8. 6 children die in Jigawa boat accident. Details on page 6. And the picture story you see there, flood. 8 buildings collapse, graveyard submerged in Borno. You find all the details on page 4. Some flooded areas in Maiduguri. That's what you see there. It's quite an unfortunate situation, Mr. Chukudi.
Hospital services disrupted as nurses strike enters day 3. The job of a doctor, according to somebody who should know, is different from the job of a nurse. All the same, the nurse is very important in the chain of healthcare delivery. The doctor comes with his expert eyes, looks at the patient, drops 1 or 2 instructions, walks away. The real toil is carried through or carried out by the nurse.
And the
so
midwives.
the nurses and the midwives, I've had reason to interact with them in the past 33 days. It's still ongoing for me. So I know what I'm talking about. We pray that the warning strike, I think it's going to last 7 days. I think so. It's not indefinite.
They shouldn't have been allowed to go on the strike in the first
You know,
place.
I can't keep on sounding like a broken record, coming here to say that the first thing you give attention to in a country is health.
Health.
That's what you hear in the UK and the US. What is the health care like? Keir Starmer, British Prime Minister, nearly got into trouble the other time because NHS was thought to be of being toyed with by the Labour Party and all that. So let us not joke with
the health.
I'm one of those who say, pay them above every one of us. You know, I know journalists are going to get jealous because they work 25 out of the 24 hours of the day. But please, saving lives is on an entirely different pedestal.
Level. Yeah.
Let's learn to elevate health to its status. And it's who said yesterday that somebody's proposing that our elites get banned from medical tourism and all that. About time we implemented it so that we begin to take things seriously. Indians don't go on medical tourism. They take care of themselves within their country. They're not more developed than us.
Because their health system is top-notch.
Exactly. And you're talking about 1.3 billion people. So it's not as if Nigeria's 200 million plus is the issue. It is the attention or inattention we have accorded it. Let's come out of it. It's a revelry that should not have started in the first place.
In the first place.
Please, it's very important. When I hear turnaround maintenance about refineries in Nigeria, I don't quite, I'm not comfortable. You know, when Tam David West came in as Babangida's oil minister, Victor, are you sure you know him? You know, I thought, when I started hearing Tam, I thought it was Tam David West named before I got to know about the turnaround maintenance.
Yes.
That story, they have been singing it for as long as I can remember. Now they are saying operating PH refinery ahead of full turnaround is ill-informed. Whatever methodology you adopt, we want fuel to flow seamlessly from those, terminals.
Yes.
You know, I don't get it. We can't keep on talking about the same thing on and on.
Perhaps reduced cost. That's what will excite Nigerians.
No, the cost is coming down. Cost is coming down. I actually read yesterday somewhere that the other marketers are trying to sell below Dangote price. The price war has started. Competition is everything. Remember Glo and MTN. We're on the right track, you know. Things are coming down. It's just that we still say, however, whatever the degree of coming down we're experiencing, what comes from our pocket does not quite match the ruling prices out there. Jumai should be paid more, and Victor as well. I know it will get to me, in the same vein.
Okay, let's talk about the flooding in Maiduguri. It's the season. All
It's the season.
You're getting flooded,
but
it's unusual in a place like Maiduguri.
Yes.
We don't usually have.
Actually, the world was on alert yesterday when they talked about a tsunami likely to have come from a far end of Russia. Because
I saw the visuals.
You saw it. It was going to be almost half global.
Yes.
But later they dropped the degree of alarm that it was sending out. It seems that nature decided to pull back a bit, because when the elements strike, man is feeble indeed, you know. So the flood you talked about is seasonal. But the question we keep asking is, how proactive could we have been in terms of averting some of it? There are some you can't do anything about. The ice is melting and is pouring its waters onto land. So a little rain like this creates a deluge because the ice is melting. You know, I hear there's a big tear somewhere there now in the Arctic region. You know, so these are the things. But on our own, are we making sure that we're not building structures on the pathway of water? it will eventually take the building down.
Water will always find its path.
That's the way it
We
is.
are not taking the climate change campaign seriously.
Seriously, it's just on paper.
We're not
That's
taking
what I'm saying. It's mostly on paper.
Not here, not anywhere.
Anywhere in the world.
No,
and the fact that we are not...
The European Union is trying to take the climate change seriously.
But we are not contributing to the omission. Why are we feeling the impact?
Yes, we are saying that they are the ones who are creating much of the emission, so they should compensate us really and all that. But I was going to my dear Donald Trump, his cracking and all that, the shell he wants to do and all that. It's still going on. But I think man should start taking some things, seriously, because at the end of the day, he pays for what he has decided to ignore when he should have become a more serious person.
I was telling myself, you may go and learn how to swim. Because you don't hold it so much. If you don't know how to swim. I am going to learn how to swim.
Now, fire here saying I go end this world will not be water.
Okay, on that note, Chukwudi, thank you so much for
coming.
Thank
you.
It's a pleasure.
Always good to be here.
So we'll take a break now. When we return, our conversation will begin. Don't go away.
From the Atlantic across the savannah to the Sahara, we rise, a land of the free, we know they tire. We dream great, our spirit is undying.
Resilient, rooted like palm tree, we sway in colors, we turn dark into light, we make solutions, we ignite passion, yeah. Diversity is unique, we have more than just a nation.
We are Nigeria, strengthening unity, we know they carry life. We are Nigeria, together live the dream of a land with great destiny. We are Nigeria.
I am the real Nigerian. Brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
Nivea Black and White Deodorant, now with 72-hour protection. But what does that mean? 3 cities in 3 days and no fear of sweat and odor. 120 dances with skin as smooth as the moves. Sweat, stain and odor protection. Nivea Black and White Deodorant. Skin is for embracing life. Nivea is for skin.
We're not in a romantic relationship, we're in a dash.
Brotherly relationship.
Friends with benefits.
Yeah, very bad boy.
No. Family relationship.
Who be your family?
Situationship.
Are you in a situationship?
It is well.
Survey says... Hey!
Onenge is my girlfriend.
Good judge. Thank God. Say I hacked. An oversized shirt is okay to wear, but an oversized dash isn't.
Skirt.
Bra.
Short. Wow.
Pants. Whoa. Name something you add to your text to make them more interesting.
Emojis.
Stickers, pictures.
The way my back at the breathing, at the yada.
Gifts.
Survey says.
My birthday.
The Nigeria Coat of Arms is the official seal that represents the authority of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, hung on the wall behind the seat of the principal officer of the government, supported by the portrait of the serving president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It has 7 features. The black shield stands for Good Earth of Nigeria. The silver wavy band stands for the confluence of rivers Niger and Benue. The 2 white horses stands for dignity. The yellow flora is a common wildflower throughout Nigeria. The red eagle stands for strength. The wreath is in our national colors of green, white, green. The motto, unity and faith, peace and progress, is written on a beautiful yellow ribbon, and it's a maxim for all Nigerians. Be a real Nigerian.
pleased to announce encouraging news from the National Bureau of Statistics, which released the Consumer Price Index, the CPI, for April 2025 only yesterday. According to the report, the headline inflation rate for April stood at 23.71%, this represents a decrease of 0.52% from the 24.23% recorded in March 2025. Similarly, month-on-month inflation dropped by a notable 2.04% from 3.90% in March to 1.86% in April. This, of course, did not just happen by chance. The President is focused and is determined, and his determination and his interventions are clearly paying off. The benefits of reform, though gradual, are real and measurable.
You're welcome back, and you're still watching Good Morning Nigeria. Now let's take this background report to push our conversation.
Education is key to human development, and beyond every other, it rather gives leverage for growth and economic development. This amplifies the essence of attention on a nation's tertiary institution. In Nigeria, this is as well the same. Over time, Nigerian graduates have been quite competitive with their counterparts across the globe, but series of complaints about the tertiary institutions they came out from brings concerns. For a long time, the Nigerian tertiary education has been faced with numerous challenges, including the inadequate funding, dilapidated infrastructure, brain drain, corruption, and a mismatch between the academic programs and the needs of the labor market, amongst others. Frequent industrial actions by academics and non-academic staff have been said to be a major problem, as it disrupts academic calendars and hinders the learning process. Concerns as well exist about the mismanagement of funds and instances of corruption within some institutions, diverting resources away from essential academic activities. These have actually caused the decline in quality of Nigerian education, aside the fact that the mismatch between academic programs and the needs of the job market leads to high rates of unemployment amongst graduates, hence hinders national development, which has been said to be the cause of the continuous brain drain. Experts say by tackling these challenges, Nigeria can strengthen its tertiary education sector and position it as a catalyst for national development. But how earnest can this be done and achieved, and what should be the priority to achieve these? Our guests will be answering these questions and more shortly.
All right, many thanks, Yajayi, for that background report. And to begin our conversation on issues in tertiary education in Nigeria, let me make welcome first here in the studio Professor Christopher Piwuna, President, Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU. A pleasure to welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
Let me also introduce Professor Andrew Haruna. He's Secretary, Committee of Vice Chancellors of Nigerian Universities. We thank you for coming.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
And also joining us here in our Abuja studio is Professor Umaru Pate. He's the Vice Chancellor, Federal University, Kashiri, Gombe State. He's also the President, Society of Nigerian Broadcasters. You're welcome to move.
Thank you, and good morning.
It's a pleasure to have you join us.
All right, let's begin with ASU, and for a reason, because ASU has the responsibility of picking out those things that we may not see. So I'm asking, what do you consider the biggest threat to tertiary education in Nigeria today?
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for this opportunity to talk about some of these challenges that we've continued to face in Nigerian universities. I think if you just go back history about tertiary education in Nigeria, whether it was the Cookie report of 1981, the Gray-Longe report of 1991, the Etsunupe report of 93, or the Vision 2010, Vision 2020. Each of these reports talked about funding as a key challenge faced by Nigerian universities. I mean, way back 1981, and this is 2025, almost 45 years since those reports, and we're still where we are, literally, because the number of students have exploded, the need for access and other things for tertiary education has continued to expand. And so funding is a critical issue in Nigerian universities, and closely followed by issue of conditions of service of staff in Nigerian universities. So for us in ASU, we think funding is a critical thing, and that was why after the 2009 agreement, we also raised concerns about the state of our universities, which gave birth to the needs assessment report of 2013. And so funding has continued to be a major challenge for public universities. And when you talk about funding, you know, over time, because of maybe TED Fund and other intervention agencies in Nigeria, we tend to look at infrastructural decay and decline as the major problem that concerns funding. But take the issue of training, the cost of training an individual, a graduate, an undergraduate. As at 2010, the cost of training either a medical doctor, a veterinary doctor, or a student in dentistry was about 770,000 naira. The exchange rate at that time was $360. Someone who's studying agriculture, the cost of training him way back then at this exchange rate was about 370 or so. Look at what we have today as the exchange rate and the number of students. So when you look at a university that has full accreditation of a program and the cost of training each of these students, you will see that the issue of funding is so ugly in Nigerian universities. That is outside this infrastructural issues that we think funding would address. So even to train a student in a program that has full accreditation, the library is there, the laboratories are there, the hostel is there, light is there, excluding the cost of living. So funding is very central. But the issue of welfare of staff, and recently we've said, look, everybody is going through these difficult times. Yes, as president of ASU, we're concerned about our members. They elected us. But even the university itself, we're just talking about doctors' strike just before this program. Nurses are on strike, sorry. How much can doctors achieve without nurses? A doctor will spend, say, 15 to 20 minutes reviewing a patient, and the remaining 23 hours in a day he's with the nurses. The nurses have gone on strike. The point I'm trying to make is that the university system needs to, the government needs to address the welfare of all those who work in the university system. And we're making a case for improved salaries for academic staff and non-academic staff in the universities. It is very important for us to have a system that works for all of us that are in the system. So funding welfare is very, very important. Other issues that have compounded the issue of funding include proliferation of universities. So funds that are not available are spread over a very wide area, and so it goes very thin.
Very thin.
You know, for
all right, we'll get to a lot of the other issues as the program progresses. Professor Party, I'd like you to share with us your experience running a university.
Thank you very much. What my president said is absolutely right. And from my little experience as a vice chancellor, I've realized that if you are leading a university, there are 6 or so major areas that you must focus your attention on. 1, academic and physical development. 2, funding, like you said. 3, staff and students' welfare. 4, quality assurance of the programs you're offering. Next is town and gown relationship. And of course, ICT development in the current era. And importantly, leadership at all levels in the system. These areas are very critical. And having a university is not just having the buildings. The number one element in a university, the staff, the quality of staff that you have to run the system. You don't go to a university simply because there's a huge building or a very beautiful structure there. But you go to a university because of the quality and competence of the staff who are in that particular system. You follow professors to go and learn. Now, in a situation where the number of staff available is either depleting, non-available, or the training level is weak, then definitely there will be a major gap. And that will translate into what we call quality assurance of the program that you're offering. And when you're talking about quality, you're talking about the quality of the type of staff you have offering the teaching, either teaching or non-teaching services. You're talking of your library, which may appear a bit non-visible to a lot of people, but very, very important. You're talking about the quality of your laboratories. In any university where you have to close down your laboratories, you have to close down your library after official working hours, either because you don't have electricity or because people are on strike, then that university is not designed to be great. Laboratories and libraries are supposed to remain open 24 hours, but you know that we cannot do that in Nigeria. Universities today are becoming engines of innovation globally. Whether we are prepared for that is a question. Then, issue of staff and students' welfare. The ASU chairman is here. When I started as a graduate assistant, my salary around 300, maybe 320 or thereabout, could give me up to $150 or more dollars. But today, if I tell you my salary and then translate it into dollars, definitely you understand that instead of going up,
it's gone down.
Well, I didn't say going down, but then definitely it ought to have been better. And if I compare my own stand with the stand of others at my own level elsewhere, definitely there is also a need for serious improvement. Then the issue of town and gown relationship. The universities do not exist in vacuums. They exist within communities with strong relationships extending to the highest level of offices in the land. Relationships externally, relationships with local communities. In some universities, they don't have land. In my own university, land may not be an issue. But if you go to University of Lagos today, land is a serious issue. In some universities, communities are very hostile. In some universities, the state governments and the universities are not relating very well. So, and this will naturally affect the progress of the system. So we can go on and on. So from my little, and then leadership, like I've said, leadership from the top, leadership that appreciates what it takes to run a university, what it takes to own a university. University is not about buildings. University is about the quality, like I've said, of the people who run it. But where the leadership does not appreciate that particular stand is a problem. And then within the universities, where you have a vice chancellor or a council whose vision and mission hardly aligns with the system of running a quality university, there will be a problem. Where the vision of the leadership does not align with the national realities and contemporary evolving issues globally, there will be a problem. And even within the university, where you have local leaderships like head of department, faculty officers, and all of that, where they are busy fighting themselves, causing crisis over nothing. And then at the end of the day, instead of the university to align and address its mandate, you have people factionalizing themselves, fighting over local leadership, fighting who will be a vice chancellor, who will be this, who will be that. Then the energy of the entire system is wasted. And this is a major issue within the Nigerian university system.
But that doesn't that say,
Yeah.
doesn't that say, Jimmy, I'm sorry, doesn't that say something about the internal workings also of the university, the way universities run? You're talking about people tussling over who becomes vice chancellor.
Look at it.
There is a University of Calabar issue.
This is a reflection of what is happening in the wider society. Otherwise, the universities have their rules. But when people from outside interfere and get their own way, people who have no business whatsoever being in universities or knowing how universities are run, but take it upon themselves to determine who becomes a leader, either based on some indigenship or based on some other criteria that are less academic, then you have a problem. But if the universities were to be autonomous, now that takes us to issue of academic independence and freedom, where they're absolutely autonomous to determine who leads on the basis of competence, on the basis of confidence, and on the basis of experience and linkages and networks, then that will work. But the university council, for example, may want to bring the most qualitative candidate, but you have pressures from outside. So you cannot simply accuse the universities alone, but you must also look at the external interferences from different quarters.
External interference from different quarters,
Yes.
and it all boils down to politics in the academia. And let me bring
What I
in,
want, please,
yes,
you don't exclude the politics of the university from the politics of the main town.
Okay, so they are interrelated.
Of course they are.
Interrelated. Okay, let me bring in Professor Haruna into this conversation. Now, you've listened to them raise some pertinent questions on funding, infrastructure, the quality of education. And some analysts have said that we need structural reforms to revive the tertiary institution. Do you agree?
Well, it is interesting that the flashlight is on the universities, and we don't look at other aspects. Why the universities? I'm starting from the other way around. One, why is it that people want to associate with the university, but they want to identify with the universities, but they don't want to do anything radical to change the fortune of the universities? Universities are not just institutions like secondary school somewhere hidden in a village. Universities are universal institutions, and the staff who are working in the university, particularly the academic staff, they are also universal staff, highly mobile. Now, if a nation does not take this into consideration as regards funding to be able to keep their own quality staff, they're just wasting their deposit. Now, why the university is very important is because this is the only place where you have intelligent people who work day and night, not because they want to earn money. They want to bring solutions to society. They want to conquer their environment. But then we have interference from outside. This interference is a major issue. When you talk of funding this kind of institution which has its own specific culture and orientation, the Nigerian system, I think, is not well prepared for that. Today we have 76 federal universities, 68 state universities. These are public institutions. We have 159 private universities, which brings a total of 299. This proliferation of universities, as my chairman said, with regard to the public institutions, You see, no matter the amount of money which is being quoted, it's thin out. It doesn't get to where you really wanted it to be. Secondly, when you go through the history of the Nigerian university system, in the early 70s to 80s, the whole thing was manpower. We want to provide manpower for our own system. Okay? We have three key functions: teaching, research, and community service. Now, the thinking of government as we were growing up is just to provide salaries and, in some respects, overhead. No money for research.
Which is very important.
But no, that is key.
It's key.
And this is why we are suffering today. You have an institution like TED Fund. Now we have expanded the universities. One single research can take you 15 to 20 years. And then you'll be given maybe 1 million and go and conduct research. It's not like driving a car from Lagos to Maiduguri. After 20 hours, you have arrived. No. Some researches take you more than 10, 15 years. And some in the sciences, heavy equipment, manpower is critical, energy is critical. So when we talk of funding, I tell you honestly speaking, there is no funding with regard to the Nigerian university system. I'm the Secretary General of the Committee of Vice Chancellors. I know what the Vice Chancellors are going through. Even the little overhead you give them, every hour they are called to Abuja to report for something which is completely non-academic. I don't think there is any Vice Chancellor who has 24 hours concentrating on thinking how to solve the problem of the universities. Because of what? Interference. So even the little funding, so-called funding, is wasted. Now, laboratories, take for example, energy. The number of students has multiplied. Hostels, one single hostel, my colleague, a Vice Chancellor, is here. We don't pay fees in the public universities. Now, bed space from 1970s, when I was in the university, was 90 naira. 90 naira. And until today, it's still the same 90 naira. Because the Vice Chancellors are not allowed to charge fees. Now, they pay over 100 million monthly for electricity bills, some of the universities. There are no cafeterias on hostels, in the universities. The students use electric cookers. And they tap electricity from this same source where the VCs are running their laboratories from. And if they increase charges, there is going to be trouble. So in essence, I think government wants institutions, but they are not prepared actually to really run these institutions. They don't seem to come to, ASU has provided statistics on how to manage or how to fund one single graduate in the university. These statistics are there. But why wouldn't they match these figures with the funding they provide? We want education, but we're not prepared for it. Then one other critical point. I can tell you confidently, any professor working in the university today, he's doing it on charity, for the love of the job, and the love of his society. Why are other sectors of Nigerian society funded immediately when they needed money? Money is pumped in there. But when it comes to university, where you have the intelligent people of your society, where your system survives on them, but these are the people you treat as trash. And you can see it reflected in the society. We have monetized every aspect of our society such that a professor doesn't mean anything. Because he doesn't earn much, he's useless. Forget it. You see, education is what gives you liberty. It liberates you, and after you have been liberated, you contribute to society. But today we have not allowed that freedom. So funding can go in different ways. One person whom I have benefited from his experience and his kind of quality of training was late Professor Jibril Aminu. Professor Jibril Aminu had a plan when he recruited me as a graduate assistant. He looked into the future and he was able to give me the orientation of what I will do in the university. And I called him the man who planned, okay? He trains and he also retains. He trains and retains. Now in our own system here, we have leadership that trains, if the training at least takes place, but there is no master plan for retaining what you have trained. We train for others to take them away. Because of what? Not that the Nigerian system is bad, but the environment is so horrible and hostile. And academic staff cannot work effectively in the university because of what? The infrastructure is nothing to write home about. And if you don't provide quality environment, you create truancies. I cannot sit in an office to do serious academic work if there is no electricity, if the furniture there is not anything comfortable. We are losing the best brains of this country because of lack of funding.
Yes.
No
We are losing the best. Okay, you have a follow-up question. Okay.
You know, everybody seems to agree on one thing. Funding is an issue, right? But there are other issues which we haven't talked about. And since we are still in the realm of identifying the issues before we begin to discuss how to tackle them, I'll go direct. There is this issue of about 300 students, dentistry students, asked to go. That's at the University of Calabar. That's one. I don't know where we categorize that kind of issue. That's not a government issue, if you ask me. The University of Abuja also comes to mind. The leadership tussle is just, it's an uneasy calm at the moment. The leadership there is still interim. They have not been able to coast clear of the challenges that they had a while ago. Where do you categorize these issues? And I've heard the National Assembly, yes, funding is an issue, but National Assembly also says that vice chancellors earn a lot internally. They are IGR and they are unbudgeted. They just spend. So this pie is not big enough. We are talking about the health sector. Our newspaper reviewer said the health sector should be accorded, they should get much more than everyone else. The education sector feels the same way. Everybody feels the same way. This pie can't go round like that. So the little we get from elsewhere to augment, I don't know how much we are doing with it. So these three issues, where do we categorize them?
Well, I can tell you, no vice chancellor is earning enough. You see, I was a vice chancellor. Let me tell you where the misconception is. If they talk of internally generated revenue, the vice chancellor, where do they get it? You see, one, if a vice chancellor gets money, there are specific things which he does with this money. Now, if you collect 200 naira from a student to give him an ID card, that money goes to this ID card. If you collect 5,000 so that you can clean the toilets, buy detergent and what have you, that's what you employ to provide quality environment for the students. If you ask the student to pay 1,000 naira for sports, that's the money where you send for sports. Now you see people from outside look at all this sum of money and think this is internally generated revenue. If the vice chancellor does not provide the sporting facilities, does not provide the exam booklets, does not provide the ID cards, the student will challenge him because he collected this money and told them, this is what I want to do with this money. Now, when you talk of internally generated revenue, this cannot be internally generated revenue. And the total sum of this, when it is looked into the account of the vice chancellors, you get people from all aspects. We want to go for oversight to look at what goes on there. Virtually, there's nothing. So that is what I want to explain with regard to so-called idea of internally generated revenue. There are other aspects, services which they can provide and get money from, but they don't even have the energy. If they have consultancy services, they can run services, but then the facilities to sustain the infrastructure to provide services to the outside community, to augment what they have, that is almost nearly non-existent. Now you talk about a tussle. Well, I'm the secretary of the pro-chancellors of the Nigerian universities, of all the federal universities. And I can tell you, we have high quality people there. But then even they themselves, when they manage the universities, there are quite a good number who are independent-minded, doing things according to the law. because these are men and women of integrity. But I tell you, sometimes the pressure from outside, the interference, conflicting circulars from the ministry, denying them this autonomy which they ought to have, is enormous. So the issues are not just straightforward as it is. But I can tell you, interference, governance interference in the university is critical. And unless we allow the universities to run the way they ought to, even the pro-chancellors are finding it extremely difficult to manage that.
Will you attribute the University of Calabar issue to interference as well?
Well, I'm not from the University of Calabar, but I received information from the Vice-Chancellor since I am the
That's why I'm putting it to you.
Yes, but there are many, it's multifaceted. You know, it's not so easy to say this is the point, you know. But I am sure the governing council and the Senate of the university, with the management, they will be able to solve the problem.
They over-admitted.
Yeah.
And you're asking 300, someone, a high-ranking person in the university even says that 300 students should go learn a trade, quoted as such.
Well, I can
after
tell
300 level.
A vice-chancellor will have a quota of 200 people to admit. He has closed admission or he is about to close admission. You get the pressure from somewhere else, from the blue. You got to do this. If you don't do this, this is the sanction you get from another direction. All right? I'm not saying specifically that is the case with Calabar. The Vice-Chancellor will be able to answer. But I tell you, most of the problems the Vice-Chancellors face is interference from outside. Before I round up this session, let me give you an example. Even the recruitment exercise, a Vice-Chancellor cannot recruit even a graduate assistant. And a professor who is there, who knows the quality of the kind of people he will work with, they are not allowed to do that. Now you have to go through a chain like a normal civil service job. Go to this office to get clearance. Now, when you go to this kind of offices to get the clearance, sometimes you don't end up with the quality staff you wanted to recruit. Because of what? Because of this kind of interference that comes in. For recruitment and for admission, Vice-Chancellor should have no pressure from outside, then you will see the kind of quality they produce. Because no Vice-Chancellor was appointed just because he is a professor. He earned it. Professorial position is not a political position. I said it severally when I was VC. Unless you catch me on corruption, I can abandon the job. It's a thankless job. I have not lost an election if I leave the position of a Vice-Chancellor. But then people attribute many things to the office of the Vice-Chancellor. For most cases, not because the Vice-Chancellor is bad. Interference. I can go on and on. I have several examples to give you. But most Vice-Chancellors are not given the opportunity to do what they had actually planned to run the university system.
They don't have the freedom to implement issues in the university. Because
very minimal, if there is that
very
freedom.
Very minimal because of political
interference and politics. Yes.
Okay, don't forget to send in your messages as you contribute to this conversation. We'd love to hear what you have to say. And if you have questions for our guest here in the studio, please send them. And don't forget to make it short and simple, and then put your name there. Let me return to Professor Pioner into this, this conversation. Professor Haruna has said a lot of things, especially, research, brain drain, and all that. And I know as ASU president, you bring all these things to the table when you negotiate with government. Now you've been sending some signals to government saying that if you don't do this, we'll go on strike. If you don't do it, we've not gone on strike for a while, and students have been able to achieve some things. So how much of the federal government promises have been implemented since the last strike and since the last agreement with government?
Thank you very much. Just before I answer that question, I am interested in these dental students in Calabar. For you to get accreditation, there are certain things you need to put in place. For instance, in dentistry, the dental chair alone, there is a minimum number that you need to have. They are very expensive. I don't know the exact figure, but one chair is close to 15 or 30 million naira or something like that. And the accreditation is very limited. So it takes us back to this issue of funding. If Calabar had been properly funded by government, it's not just the issue of the university, it's those who fund the system. If Calabar had been properly funded, they can afford the minimum number of, say, dental chairs that are required. Staffing, very critical. Dental lecturers are very scarce. They are very scarce. And so it needs some very meticulous planning to get their full accreditation and all of that. And so it is just, in addition to what Professor Aruna said, besides the pressure for admission, there are basic things that need to be in place for you to get, accreditation to move. There's hardly any dental school in Nigeria that has more than, say, 20 at a time. So to go to 300, it's unthinkable. But I hope that they will be able to solve it, because the students are not part of the problem. They didn't generate the problem. And I hope that the university and the government, I'm aware that the federal government recently, after the Ukraine problem and people coming back,
some students,
give some leverage to universities to expand
to absorb
accreditation and all of that. And perhaps the CVCNU, led by Professor Aruna, can also help universities to help them, speak to universities to help them absorb some of these students, for those of them who have spaces. There are medical colleges now, universities now in Nigeria, whether it is Otupo, Azare, Unimedo in Ondo. There are quite a number, and I believe that your office could also help these students in speaking for them. Back to your question on the issue of promises by government. The position of our union right now is that we're tired of promises. We're tired of words. What we need is action. It is only action that we will respond to. If there is no action on any of the issues that are before government, we will act. We started renegotiating with government this 2009 agreement in 2017. We started with Babalaki, SAN, went to Musa Ali Jibril, went to late Professor Nimi Briggs. Now we're with Alhaji Ayali Ahmed. Excellent human beings, except one. Excellent.
You're not going to name the one.
No, I'm not going to name it now. Except one. We've worked with them. We have always agreed with the government side on a draft agreement, except with Babalaki. We've always agreed. We agreed with Musa Ali Jibril. We agreed with Nimi Briggs. We have agreed with Yahya Ali Ahmed. In August 2024, when the Yahya Ali Ahmed committee was set up, by December, we had finished. Because we're just taking up, working on a document that just needs a little polishing. By December 2014, we had finished. This is August 2024. This is August 2025. Yeah. We're still with a document that we have concluded with, and no response from government. That document addressed the issue Professor Patti talked about: autonomy of Nigerian universities, academic freedom, funding of universities, our salaries. These are things that are captured properly and agreed to with the government side. But to this date, government is dragging its feet. That is an area that our members are not willing to compromise. So until and unless government comes back to us with that document for signing, then there's trouble. There's problem on ground. That's one. And when you look at the other issues, revitalization fund for these universities, in April this year, government promised that they will release 150 billion naira in 3 tranches. First 50, another 50, then another 50. And at the time they made the promise, they said in 6 weeks, they will make the first release. This is, again, August. Government is dragging its feet in doing that. We have other issues such as third-party deductions of our money, our cooperatives, our union that is still being held by government. Nothing is being done about it. We have this issue of promotion arrears from 2018, 2019. The Vice Chancellor is here, and I'm sure that in his university, you would have pockets of such members of our union that have not been paid promotion arrears. The government, after removing subsidy, decided to give a salary increase of 35% to members. They are still owing us for about 12 months. That has not been paid. So, and we've had promises, assurances that these things will be done. Nothing has been done. We understand.
But have you followed up?
Yes, we have. We have. To the credit of this current minister, Dr. Alausa, he has engaged us. We've had meetings, we've had conversations with him. He's a gentleman, but I think that the description of Professor Osibanjo by the current vice president, that a nice man sells ice cream and he shouldn't be here. I think that's a description of our minister. He's a gentleman, he's perfect, but we're tired of words and we want action. But we've engaged him, we've been talking with him, but it's time to act and time is running out. We want him to act now.
What is ASU's position on the current funding model for Nigerian universities? Now, I know that government has considered some things like pulling out from IPPIS, which they have considered. I'm not sure that has been even as efficient as IPPIS because I know that salary doesn't come as quickly as it should come, comes well into the next month. I don't know if that was the right path to take, but that's on one part. You talk about the part to recruit. I think government also considered that you could recruit without necessarily going, through all the bureaucracy. Oh, Professor Pate is shaking his head.
Actually, I was going to say that question should be answered by Pate because I think he would have the perfect answer to whether
for that
IPPIS were out of IPPIS or were still there, and whether he can recruit even a graduate assistant.
Professor Pate.
Professor Pate.
Please don't put me on the spot. But I can assure you, things are not as they should be.
Yes.
I have been a vice chancellor for the past 4 years and some months. Believe it or not, I have not been able to recruit a single staff in my university.
And it's not because you don't want to.
Of course, I have a brand new medical school in my university, fully equipped, but not staff. And because of that,
Why?
I cannot apply for accreditation because I have been following up for the past 2 years to get an approval. Eventually, I got it, but the budgetary dimension is still being followed up. And in these 4 years, I've lost people either because of death, a lot have resigned, a lot have left this country outside, and many departments remain without the appropriate staff. So I may have to depend either on visiting, sabbaticals, and sometimes I have to get part-timers. And even at that, when we used to be under IPPIS, paying them was a challenge. Somebody will come to your university for about a year. He could hardly be paid by IPPIS once or twice. You follow up. But now that it has been transferred to us, we are trying the little that we could, except for the delays. Now, in many of the universities, recruitment is a major issue. And you have to go to 5 or 6 different offices. And it's not as if going to the offices is not a problem for me. But the follow-ups and the tension you go through to go from one office to the other, it takes you over a year or more just for you to be able to recruit. And getting a professor is not something you just wake up and say, Professor A, transfer to my university. As a professor, I cannot just leave my university suddenly. There must be a lot of reasons for me to be able to leave. And for you to recruit the best graduate assistants you have. I was recruited as a graduate assistant immediately after graduation and sent to school. Professor Andrew Haruna, the same thing. The department should be able to identify their best graduates and then recruit them. They are sent on training or retained for training within the department or sent outside for training. And at very young, tender age, by the time they are back, they are ready to serve the system brilliantly. But where you don't have that, you leave a huge gap. Now you go to many of our departments, we don't even have graduate assistants any longer because we cannot recruit. The assistant lecturers have moved up. So below
There's
the
a
line,
gap.
you have a huge gap. And if accreditation is coming to a university, there's what we call staff mix. You need to have people along the chain. Assistant lecturers, lecturers 2,
So that there's
lecturers
no
1,
gap.
senior lecturer, this and that. But because many of our universities have been recruiting for a long time, and our professors are getting older, they are retiring, some are dying, some are leaving. So we have serious challenges in the entire system, not only in my university. And don't forget, every day newer universities are being opened. One thing let me give you 2 instances. One, we have huge love, like Professor Andrew said, for universities, but we do not have care for the university, and love without care is dangerous. Then secondly, you have expansion without quality, another very dangerous trend that we think is good for us. So the fewer the extra universities that are being opened, we have our lecturers who are transferring to go to them. They go there without sufficient capacity, and they leave the older ones with less capacity. At the end of the day, you have so much confusion within the system. You cannot just establish universities without proper planning. If you remember the way the 7 universities were established in 1975, they were carefully planned as part of the 3rd National Development Plan under the Gawan regime. And when Murtala and Obasanjo came, they did not obstruct that development plan. They simply implemented the thing that were contained. JAM was part of that plan. If you go through the plan, you see where it was suggested that the federal government will take over the regional universities in Ife, ABU, Nsukka, and then merge them with the federal universities of Ibadan and Lagos, and again establish newer universities. Prior to that, Ahmadu Ali was the minister. Ahmed John was the permanent secretary. They did meticulous planning, going around different parts of the world to gather data, and at the end of the day, they came out with, with a plan on how these things can be achieved. That was how NUC was established, to coordinate all these universities. Then JAM, the proposal was government will now influence the process of admissions through 2 bodies. One, matriculation board, and then admission board. It was later government sat down to agree with the universities that, look, instead of having 2 boards, why don't you have 1? That was how JAM now came up. Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, coined by late Jibril Aminu, and the government accepted. So, you see, there was some kind of planning, and in terms of expenditure, in terms of this, in terms of that, then the government announced the establishment of the university under the Murtala Obasanjo regime. And then they took time to plan for them. They brought master planners from different parts of the world to plan each of the universities. I can tell you who planned University of Maiduguri, who planned Jos, who planned Calabar, who planned Port Harcourt, Sokoto, Ilorin, and Kano. They had Nigerian counterparts. Yeah. So they did the master plans for the universities with the funding and everything, and government took over. But are we doing that today? No. And once you don't do that, you cannot have any meticulous plan for staffing, for funding, for this, for that. You just look at a mushroom village and then suddenly announce that you are taking one secondary school and it becomes a university because it belongs to the town of one of big persons, and eventually that becomes a university. And then you appoint a vice chancellor, and then you appoint a council. And who runs the university? Love without care.
Love without care.
Sorry,
That's the
I just want, I'm so happy with what Professor Patel said. Um, Once you leave your position as Vice Chancellor, we'll have a place for you as an official of ASU.
But he has always been there. He has been part of
No, we are
ASU.
going to give him an
He's
official
returning.
position.
He's now
Let
returning.
my employer hear you, and then they chase me out of the position. No, well, we will take you. But the point that he has made, is this issue of. He was very honest about how IPPS is operating and the problems that they face, the challenges of funding, the planning.
But they haven't solved the problem either.
No, but no,
because if salaries will be coming sometimes almost 2 weeks into the new month.
Well, on that, I was just identifying with some of the things he said. We personally don't think our vice chancellors are doing enough in terms of our salaries.
Okay.
Now that's the problem. We don't know what some of the challenges they have. But when our salaries are delayed, the best we get from our vice chancellors is a letter from the bossa saying salaries are delayed. So what? I mean, why are our salaries delayed? They have said that they have moved us from IPPIS back to the university. So it is the problem of the vice chancellor to tell us what his challenges are in terms of funding. But it's ASU that would always agitate for the payment of these salaries. Unfortunately, sir, we have not seen any vice chancellor being overly concerned to us over our delayed salaries. So unless we make efforts, our vice chancellors seem to be okay with the delay. I mean, that's what
That's another love without care.
That's another love without care. Let me tell you what the vice chancellors do. As a vice chancellor, my greatest worry will be for the month to end without receiving a warrant from Abuja to settle my staff. Of course, my salary is also part of that. And secondly, I'm a human being. I have feelings, and I know what my people go through. But I have to wait for Abuja, and I cannot, there's a limit to what I can say, other than to explain to them that, look, I have not received my money. Like the issue of arrears that you talked about. Only that I wouldn't want to give you what we have been doing in my own individual university, because we are talking about the university system. So all we do is we have to contact the officer of the accountant general. Please, when are we have our desk officers. When are we getting so? When they we are working on it, we are working on it. So what else can you do more than that? Since I do not have control, we have to wait for the end of the month to receive a warrant for us to pay our staff. So that is the challenge of every vice chancellor. And there's a limit to what you can do, since the money is not with us for us to be able to credit our staff's account.
Okay.
Yes, we are out of IPPIS, but there are other ways through which some people are still exercising that unwarranted control over the operations of the university.
Unwarranted control over the university. Then we have some messages from Nigerians who want to ask questions and contribute to the conversation. Let me begin with, he didn't put his name there. You should always put your name so that we can identify you. Listening to the VC of the university from Gombe, re-emphasize my personal study that many universities in Nigeria are politicized, that merit is no longer a criteria, but other standards that are inimical to ensure that the universities retain the name Ivory Towers. Another one said in Nigeria, tertiary institutions face various challenges, including inadequate funding, outdated curriculum, lack of infrastructure, poor quality of teaching, and limited access to educational resources. These issues have led to a decrease in educational standards and hindered the development of skilled workforce. That's coming from Dr. Mustafa Mohammed Abubakar. You sent such a lengthy said that I can't take them all, but I think I've taken the one that is, yes, please abridge them next time. Dr. Mustafa Mohammed Abubakar from Abuja. And I want to say that pity tertiary institutions in Nigeria, just look at students' hostel, beds full of bed bugs, toilets very unkept, source of fecal pathogens. Pity students from federal universities, pity their lecturers. They are doing just charity work. If this situation is not corrected, Nigerian development in all aspects is an illusion. And Ben Uzo said some university lecturers appear to be demigods. This crop of lecturers make it difficult for students to graduate, even when these students are intelligent. What will these lecturers achieve in this act by blocking the future of students? A lecturer nearly frustrated my brother from graduating in pharmacy at UNN, even when my brother academically was academically and morally sound. That's Ben Uzo. And Alhaji Garko from Karo site said, good morning, Nigerians, presenters, and your guests in the studio. Education is great key to success and development to human existence. Our past and present leaders, including successful individuals, went through education. Nigerian leaders should take it serious in funding public tertiary institutions in Nigeria in order to discourage our youths from seeking for education abroad. Alhaji Garko. And Yasda says strikes have been a mechanism used by professional bodies to achieve certain goals. In Nigeria, when ASU goes on strike, there seems to be minimal impact on the government. What other strategies can ASU deploy to ensure that their demands are met in case of strike? In case strikes does not work? There are so many. Victor, you can take some.
No, we'll deal with these ones. If there are
yes,
responses,
yes.
then we can.
I don't want to say there's interference, but yes, there's interference, but the prof is economical with the truth. Too much collection from the universities, debtal faculty courses registration. Each student spends up to 150,000 and above for this registration. Some course registration are as high as 15,000 naira. Federal universities are even more expensive than private. Do you agree with that?
We need evidence.
Yes, another one say, morning NTA, please. I don't think our school is under NUC and they are still operating, wasting our time. I think it is high time the government step into this. The name of the school is Melwa International University, Masaka. Please look into this. Thank you. I think that you will be able to respond to that. Another one says it's a shame that universities in Nigeria have to go on their knees begging for funding and a justifiable remuneration. It is needless to remind our leaders that education is the bedrock of any developed society. Why are senators and honorable members earning millions monthly beside the constituency projects allowance given to them or on a quarterly basis, yet mostly divided? That's coming from Jumari Fatima. To the ASU president, why are you not giving priority to academic staff welfare? The federal government gives federal employees 25% of their salaries, but you are not following for academic staff. That may contribute to brain drain of the academic staff. I want to say good morning, my distinguished guest, professor in the studio. I'm highly impressed with your honest discussion on the problems faced by the university system over the years in this. Funding in the university is key if our university system is to operate at its best to realize the best outcomes. This one is too long. And yes, Professor Salman Abiodun Abdusalam, University Librarian, Kwara State University, Malete, said, good morning. Essentials of the tertiary education challenges in Nigeria have been brilliantly addressed by the three discussants: funding, staff welfare, quality of training, and external political interference in the administration of the university. However, I'm of the opinion that license approval for the establishment of universities, especially private, should be moderated and controlled for quality assurance. Efforts and attention should be directed towards the existing universities. Also, research by universities should be industry-driven such that the researches could be patented and a means of IGR, if you like. That's Professor Salman Abiodun Abdusalam.
I think most of the issues have been addressed, apart from the one directed at the ASU president. That are not
the Maiwara University, NUC, I think you'll be able to talk to us about that.
Well,
Prof, perhaps while you put your thoughts together, we have to pause and go on a break. When we return, we'll continue this conversation. Please don't go away.
Nivea Black and White Deodorant, now with 72-hour protection. But what does that mean? 3 cities in 3 days and no fear of sweat and odor. 120 dances with skin as smooth as the moves. Sweat, stain and odor protection. Nivea Black and White Deodorant. Skin is for embracing life. Nivea is for skin.
Our major currency unit is the Naira, while the minor unit is the Kobo. They are both in notes and coins. The Naira is more than just a medium of exchange. It bears the images of our heroes. So, stop abusing the Naira. It is a criminal offense to spray the Naira at events. Stop stepping on the Naira. It's not your enemy. Do not squeeze, ruffle, or
we can change the narrative about Nigeria. When people talk about Nigeria, they talk negatively about it most of the times. So it's the role of the filmmakers to now bring that positive side of Nigeria for the the world to understand that Nigerians are more than the negative information they used to get. And we can do that digitally because in those days, you have to communicate or go for lectures for people to understand where you're coming from. But now you have these platforms. Everything you have can go on these platforms. People will see globally. Look at Nigeria on Netflix. It's doing really very well. When Nigerian films premiere on Netflix, you find out that they're in the top 5 or top 10 in most of the European countries, Asian countries, and all other parts of the world. So this is one of the ways through which we can be able to export that, or do that cultural exchange.
How much of being a Nigeria cultural ambassador are you? And we're all guilty of this. Most of us Nigerian filmmakers are guilty. So here we see a good number of us telling stories that are still Western culture dominated. From the naming of your characters, from the writing of your story, the characters are named English names. What happens to Yoruba names? What happens to Hausa names? What happens to Igbo names? What happens to Tiv names? What happens to our cultural epic names? Oh, they say, but they will not be able to pronounce it. Oh, leave that to them. Do we pronounce their own names? We have to be intentional about how we represent our culture, knowing now that the world is a global space and you don't need people's permission. Everything you do, directly or indirectly, intentionally or unintentionally, you're putting the Nigerian story out there. I think we should begin to make conscious attempts at creating our own streaming platforms. So we thank God for giant streaming platforms like Prime Video. We thank God for giant streaming platforms like Netflix and the rest of them. But what happens if today or if tomorrow we come up with our own Nigerian Netflix?
All right, we thank you very much for staying with us. It's been an interesting conversation, a touching one too, on the issues affecting tertiary education in Nigeria. And just before we went on this break, we were talking about taking responses from our guests, from our viewers. And Professor Andrew was going to respond.
Well, some of the comments by viewers was excellent. Let me say something which will tie up good comments provided by my colleagues here, about the development of Nigerian universities. You see, I run the organization CVCNU, which is 63 years old now, because it came as a result of this master planning. Okay, the NUC was there, JAM was there, and then in the cabinet office, the first 5 vice chancellors came together and said, how do we advise government to run educational system in Nigeria, and this where they can also dialogue and provide information. Then you see the universities were independent. Unfortunately today, a university is set up when somebody somewhere moved a motion and then he said, I want a university in my community because it will provide jobs, it could provide this, it could provide this and that, counteracting the master plan which Professor Pate earlier mentioned. And as a result of this, even when councils are to be appointed, when vice chancellors are to be appointed, this same mover of the motion will insist, it is my own motion that brought about the existence of this university. Therefore, the vice chancellor must be allocated to me. The registrar should be the one to also propose the names. Then you lose the federal character. Secondly, after that, it comes to the issue of recruitment. Such individuals will sit down on the neck of the vice chancellor and said, hey, I move for the motion for this university to be situated here, and then I influence your own appointment. Now I need appointment letters for people whom I have brought you. So appointment letters are to be provided like constituency projects. I mean, these kind of interferences. Now, we in the Committee of Vice Chancellors of Nigerian Universities, this is what we see. And this planning has totally been disregarded. When those 5 universities or 7 were being established, a lot of thinking were done. Now, no much thinking is done, but just by moving a motion. You don't establish a university by moving a motion.
But emotion doesn't cut it, because emotion does not ensure.
Accent to our own, we will not support you. Accent to our own, we will not support you in the next coming election. That's the consequences of it. That's what we see. However, I am not saying that establishing universities all over the country is not good. We need it. Nigeria is over.
It's the standard that matters.
That we need it.
Standardization
we need quality.
matters. Yes,
we don't produce the lecturers. A vice chancellor sitting for 3-4 years, he will finish his tenure without recruiting anybody. And we have PhD holders moving on the streets. We have people with masters moving on the streets. I gave you an example of with an excellent human being, Professor Jibril Aminu. He recruits, we were recruited directly from, when we graduated. The best students were recruited. There are good benefits of that. These students have emotional attachment to the university where they graduated.
And they are fresh.
Secondly, they have not been diluted. Thirdly, they'll be trained by those lecturers who taught them as they are growing. Thirdly, the management of the university has already made a master plan on how to fill these registry positions. Fourthly, no vice chancellor who has gone through this process will send staff abroad and not take care of them. In the case of Jibril Aminu, when he sent us, by the time we were returning, he knew that these young, brilliant young men whom I have trained to PhD level, they may likely come with European wives or wives from other international community. So he started building houses that could fit into that. So as soon as we return, nobody goes to hotel. Straight you move in and you are excited. Even if you have come with a European woman,
you have a vehicle
she is happy. So the environment was also prepared. This is master planning. But when you have somebody who will just wake up after having a dream and say, look, I need a university because I'm well connected, I tell you this is terrible.
It's all about the votes, some people say. It's all about getting the votes at the end.
I think the sad aspect of it is that in this country, we have decided to politicize, ethnicize, religionize, regionalize, and personalize issues that ordinarily should be subjected to merit and serious thinking and intellectualizing before eventually practicalizing. We don't do that. And once you don't do that, there are consequences. We expend funds unnecessarily.
Absolutely.
We waste our time and efforts unnecessarily talking on things that are of less relevance. Today, universities that are supposed to be modern and productive must be engines of innovation, where you need capable leadership, where you need capacity, where you need connection, networking, and internationalized character. Because I can train a student today, next time he takes up a master's degree in Harvard, in Oxford. I've been going to Oxford, visiting Cambridge, and even Harvard to deliver presentations. And I was trained in a Nigerian university up to my PhD level. But today, I have international branding. Why is it so? Because I was lucky to have been mentored by professors of international standards. So my desire and dream is also to ensure that the quality of Nigerian universities today can graduate and go to take masters in Oxford, in Harvard, in Yale, every other place without being asked to offer remedial courses or without any element of deficiency. They can compete with somebody from Taiwan, from China, from any other part of the world in the same class. Not only that, be able to be recruited as workers in any part of the globe. Now, let me tell you what is facing us, if you don't know. In the next 5 years, there are about 92 million jobs are likely going to vanish. And another 120 million new jobs are likely to be created, courtesy of the Internet of Things, robotics, and artificial intelligence.
Skills.
Now, who is going to train people for these 120 million jobs? Universities. Which means our universities must retool, must reskill, and standardize up to global competitive levels. And for the universities to do that, we need staff who themselves are sufficiently trained and capable of understanding all these Internet of Things with the right tools at their disposal to be able to train students who can fit into all these realities. That was why I told you that our universities must be engines of innovation with capable leadership. But the first thing is you need leadership from the top that appreciates all these coming realities and changing situations in the world. We're in a transitional world. So you need leadership that can appreciate that and be willing to support the universities to become transformative and innovative to train younger Nigerians. Our population is increasing by the day. We are not creating sufficient opportunities to absorb all this population. And the way we are running our system today, it cannot just work. We have to change the orientation of our lecturers, train newer ones, make facilities available, ensure that our laboratories are of international standards, because standards are of global nature today. They are not just local government realities. We have to train younger people, not just give them funds, empower them with motorbikes. That is not the way to go.
All right. Thank you, Professor Patti.
You have some messages. Can you read them,
I'll read them after this question. Now, Professor Piwuna, a lot has been said about getting the right people in the right places. Now, you take a cursory look, mentally, of how councils are made up in universities, of how even lecturers are recruited, of how our admission process, is done. You find that in some universities, if not many, that's where we are descending to. If you are not from that particular locality, you cannot be vice chancellor. It's what I have seen and heard. So what needs to change, and how do we structure these things to make, get the best results for our universities?
Well, thank you very much. Perhaps, you had earlier asked whether ASU has models for funding of universities. Yes, we do. We have models. We've proposed the models that are sustainable, for government and the society to ensure that all this innovative digital age, creativity, research-driven knowledge, is enhanced. So we do have models, and these models we've suggested to government that we should work towards the 26% budgetary allocation to education incrementally. So if this year government increases budget to education by 2%, it should go another 2% the year, for instance, until we meet that target. And truly, the last regime, late General Buhari, had said that they had a target of 15%. They want to hit 15%. And we thought that if there is a progressive movement towards it, we'll be able to achieve it. Prof has said a lot of things. The reason why we are not the universities that we are today is because there's no political will. There's no political will. So government will tell you that, there are so many competing demands, and that the resources are dwindling. But we forget that for the renaissance of our society, the university needs to play a central role for social cohesion, even the democracy that we are talking about, economic growth. Education is central to it. Let me tell you a document I came across just this week. I think African universities met in Egypt.
We met
Morocco recently.
Just last week.
Just last week. And the document that came out of that meeting in 2025, go back to the National Education Policy of Nigeria in 2013. 2013. You will see a lot of similarities between the documents that the African universities are producing in 2025 and what Nigeria had proposed for its own educational system in 2013. So there's no political will. It's not like the ideas are not there. It's not as if the government or people in power do not understand what to do. They do not have the political will to carry out policies and decisions that government itself had agreed to in the past. Coming to the question that you talked about, unfortunately in ASU, we do not share the optimism of these councils. This is the worst set of councils in recent history. it has been proven. Is it in NAU, Nnamdi Azikiwe University? Is it in the University of Abuja? Call any. In fact, we can.
Minus my university.
Well, we haven't. It's okay, sir. When it is time for you to leave, we'll assess the council very well, because that's where the problem
And
comes.
you know, I'm their secretary.
Yes. So, pro-chancellors, there are serious issues in the appointment of pro-chancellors. There are people of impeccable character, integrity, that are chairman of council. A few of them that we can name. They are there. But we have a lot of problems with these councils. The integrity of some of them is questionable. Most of them, the recruitment as pro-chancellors is based on political affiliation, and they come and they carry out the acts that their masters have asked them to execute. So this issue of religion, ethnicity, politics, regional considerations, they are rife in our universities. Most of our pro-chancellors today are contractors, and they come into the university as contractors.
Even the traditional rulers? Because
no, I'm talking about pro-chancellors.
Chancellors,
not
okay.
chancellors. The pro-chancellors. So we have a problem. And don't forget, the law establishing universities, including our agreement with government, says there should be no gap in the existence of council. We had a gap of close to a year or more before these councils came to be. And unfortunately, the recruitment of council chairmen and some of the members for us in ASU is way below. And unless those things change, we're going to continue to see that recruitment of staff into the university follows the same pattern that the chairman of council was appointed. He emerged as chairman of council.
All right, I have a lot of messages.
Yeah, you have a lot of messages.
A lot of messages. Let me see the much I can take. This one reads, "Good morning. This is a very touching subject. I was once a teacher with experience in secondary and tertiary institution. The challenge can be summed under 3 headings: lack of coherent curriculum in the country as this relates to books used, poor capacity of teachers as majority of the teachers do not have the prerequisite to be teachers, so do not care about the students but salaries, and lastly, the governments at all levels pay lip service to educational infrastructure in these schools." Okay? "Good morning, Nigerians need to fund university system very well. If not, we will not get good results." And this one reads, "My name is Samuel Ibrahim from Jos. I'm following your program. Well, it is true that fundings is poor to the university. I also have a different view as per why we do not have quality from our universities today. Lecturers are supposed to be models in character and discipline to students. Today, we see a lot of students becoming tools of sexual satisfaction for lecturers, no morals nor discipline." Okay, I leave that there. And from Yusuf Olorudare Muhammad in Ilori, "In my mind, the university can do better in terms of IGR. The university is a big community sitting on land of gold, ready to be mined. They should look inwards." All right, and this one from Dauda Michelle has said, "Professor Haruna has said it all, interference." Nanaba Rao Kumbaja from Nasarawa State says, "Good morning, Nigerians. What are the vice chancellors doing to stop corruption in Nigeria so that Nigerian government can have money to solve university problems?" I'm not sure I get that. And from Khalid Shinga in Gombe, "Good morning. Sincerely, if tertiary institutions are well funded, most of the issues in the tertiary institutions will be solved easily." Okay? And this one reads, my question goes to Professor Pate. "What are the underlying factors contributing to the persistent decline in the quality of tertiary education in Nigeria? And what holistic reforms can be implemented to address the challenges of inadequate infrastructure, brain drain, and outdated curricula, thereby ensuring the production of globally competitive graduates?" That's from Minkawe Felix. Quite a number, but I'll just take 2 more. "The solution to all education problems in Nigeria is allocation of 40% of the budget. That's from Sadiq, 40%. And another reads, to the Vice Chancellor's Secretary, Professor, sir, what is your institution doing to control the quality of education, especially from private universities? That's from Bello Muhammad. So we don't have a lot of time, but one for Professor Patti, at least I can recall, and one for Professor Haruna.
Well, there are 3 or 4 questions, answer all. And looking at the time that we have here, certainly we won't be able to go through. But one, leadership. We need quality leadership at the level of the universities and also outside the universities that have anything to do with our universities. When I say leadership, I'm talking of competent, confident, properly networked, and individuals who are convinced that they have something to offer as leaders, not on the basis of ethnicity, on the basis of religion, or on the basis of indigenship. If you look at the history of some of our great universities in this country, initially indigenship wasn't an issue in appointment of who becomes a vice chancellor. A university can have a senate that is, or let me just summarize it, a senate is always better than a council, but a council cannot be better than the university. I mean, than the senate. So a university is a function of its own senate. Where you have a senate that does not have quality leadership or that does not have quality membership, that university is not destined for greatness. And the example I gave you, we must be able to appreciate that a university where laboratories and library is the quality house of assurance. I mean, is the house of quality assurance in any university. But they have to close after 3 o'clock because there is no fuel in the generator. Laboratories have to close because no fuel in the generator, or people are on strike, or so and so. Then that university shouldn't be ready to call itself a great university. So we can go on and on. We have to learn and take lessons from what is happening in and out of our universities. We have to look at our curriculum and continuously update. Our lecturers must continuously reorientate themselves, and the leadership of the universities must be fair in utilizing the resources available to them. I agree that we also have issues relating to resource allocation in our universities. I have been a vice chancellor, and I know what factor leadership can make. I mean, the difference leadership can make in the growth of a university. So that is another critical factor. That's why I'm advocating that vice chancellors that are recruited or appointed should undergo some kind of training, even if it's just for about a week or 2, in management and all of those things, for them to take over. Mentorship is important. So once we have this focus, every other issue within the system can improve. And then we also have ASU and other unions that are also contributing positively in terms of helping the universities to access resources.
Okay. All right. Professor Haruna.
Well, thank
in 30 seconds, please.
Thank you. I'm excited you mentioned training. When I came into the office of Secretary General of the CVCNU, we now have an established CVCNU training institute where deans, directors, vice chancellors in office and those prospective vice chancellors, non-academic staff, all should be able to come for this managerial training. We have partners outside the country and within the country. We are utilizing experienced former vice chancellors and consultants who are really excellent in management style. I have made contact with many MDAs to see how professors or vice chancellors could be assisted to avoid some of the traps they fall in when they become vice chancellors. We are researchers, we are not trained for management. But when we become vice chancellors, we need the little rudiments of how to manage a university. Secondly, how do we manage universities, the quality? Again, the vice chancellors had come in careful declaration where they said we shouldn't politicize our system. Giving honorary degrees should not be given to a serving politician. It must be given to only he or she who had made impact on the educational system of the country and not in office. Now, this is where now I talk to my colleagues. They should resist the temptation of giving honorary degrees to those politicians who are in office, because that will help them to manage their university in an autonomous way.
And it wasn't so in the past.
It wasn't so.
Honest.
Secondly, not more than 2 should even be awarded honorary degrees. But now we sometimes get more than 2.
It's a bazaar.
Yes,
okay?
yes.
And we are
I have to
training-
stop you there. I have to stop you there. Professor Piuna, how do you see it, playing out? You're sending signals
That's
that you
in
might
seconds.
go on strike. What do you expect?
If everything continues the way it is now, then the government should expect the worst. Unfortunately, our salaries are nothing to talk about. Everybody has talked about it. Our agreement that was collectively bargained is under serious threat. That we consider very serious. And I believe that our lecturers, our members are waiting.
Okay.
And time is running out.
Time is running out. Okay, thank you, Professor Christopher Piuna, President, Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU. Thank you for coming on the program. Professor Andrew Haruna, Secretary Committee of Vice Chancellors of Nigerian Universities, we appreciate your insight into this conversation. And Professor Umaru Pate, Vice Chancellor of Federal University, Kashere, Gombe State, is also the President of Society of Nigerian Broadcasters. Thank you, as usual.
Thank you,
for
Jumai.
coming on the program. Thank you, all gentlemen, for your time. Thank you. And that's Good Morning Nigeria for today. Thanks so much for your time. I am Jumai.
That Victor as well. Enjoy the rest of your day.